Da. What's going on, everybody? John Paul here. Again, reprising my role as the one-man gang, and I'm going to be reviewing NXT from October 30th, and this was a really good show. It definitely built off how NXT ended last week with the Finn Balor heel turn and all that, and this was the episode that we really needed to build towards War Games, and it did just that. It told us exactly what our War Games match is going to be, and it set everything up nicely. It set up a lot of singles matches as well. So this was a really good episode of NXT, and let's get right into it. So the show started off with Poppy. She performed I Disagree right on stage, and so she played Io Shirai's entrance music. She came out. It was really awesome. I really like when they have actual musicians perform wrestlers' entrance themes. We talked about this on the podcast before, how, Motorhead, Alter Bridge, and, tons of bands performed music for WWE before. We wish they would do it more now. So it's nice to see that they do it here with Yeoh Shirai. But we would definitely like to see more of that. But it was really awesome. She came out for her match against Candice LeRae, which this was a really good match. It definitely wasn't as good as their match, their previous match, but it definitely helped build and continue the story, which is good because this feud, I believe, needs to go to a title. I don't know if you give it to Io and then you have Candice beat her for it, or if you have Candice win it and only hold it for a day, and then Io, somehow gets a match and beats her, cuts her title reign short. But these two need to feud until it gets to a title, because I think it would just make it that much more special. Even though they don't need the title, their feud is great on its own, but I think they're worthy of it. And the match ended. LeRae, she went for a dive off the top rope, and Io had brought a chair into the match earlier, and LeRae hit the chair, and then Shirai made the cover, 1, 2, 3. So I think Shirai was the correct winner in this match. Like I said, it makes sense for the feud and everything else. And then after the match, she starts beating up LeRae with the chair, and Rhea Ripley comes out. And she kicks the chair out of Shirai's hands, and then Shirai flees. She's get out of there, like, forget this. And I like this, how all these women, it's not just one woman is feuding with another one, and that's it. All these women, like, they intertwine their feuds, and the whole women's division is connected, which obviously leads to later on what happened down in the show, and led to the setup for War Games. And they announced then that Pete Dunne will be facing Damian Priest next week, so that should be a really good match. And then this is probably my favorite part of the show, honestly. Then Finn Balor comes out to address the crowd for, after his heel turn last week, attacking Johnny Gargano. And his opening line, which has nothing to do with NXT, I think was the best. He said 2 months ago, he laid down for someone who put on a mask and then all of a sudden became the hottest thing in wrestling. Well, now he took his mask off and he's the hottest thing in wrestling. And I thought that was the best, because Finn Balor he's been misused so much on the main roster. I mean, when he first went up there, Universal Championship match to be the first Universal Champion against Seth Rollins, perfect. He won the match, again, perfect. Unfortunately, he was hurt. He came back, nothing. Everything he's been in hasn't made sense. They had a chance with him to redeem him when he had that match against Brock Lesnar, but they did nothing with him. You could have sent him up in a WrestleMania program, the Demon versus the Undertaker. You never capitalized on that match. They just wasted him on the main roster. Feuding against Bobby Lashley, all that. I don't need to go through his list of, main roster failures of booking decisions, but he cut this promo and he cut up the Fiend, and then he said, everyone's been talking about this, his return to NXT and his heel turn, from management to the front office to the fans, the boys in the back. He calls out a bunch of the Twitter tough guys, and he said the problem is nowadays is there's too many fans in the locker room. And he's not a fan of wrestling. He said he doesn't watch wrestling. Wrestling watches him. And I mean, it was such a great, you know, like he just cut this promo, and he's true. It's one of those things where he needs to be focused on himself and being the best, not focusing on, oh, what's my buddy doing in this promotion, or oh, I want to watch this, or ooh, I want to watch being a fan and being in the business is two different things. And I really liked, what he said. I thought this promo was awesome, and he calls out Johnny Gargano, saying, he put him in the hospital and he heard he's out, but if he crosses him and if he wants to do this, he's going to send him right back, and he won't be Johnny Wrestling anymore. He'll be Johnny Watches Wrestling, like he should be, saying that Johnny's just a fan. He's not a real wrestler. He's just a fan of wrestling. So really called him out. I'm excited to see what Johnny says next week. And if these two, you give these guys 25 minutes, half an hour, that'll be the best match you've ever seen. So I'm really excited to see it. Then after that, you had Bronson Reed and Shane Thorn. And this match was really good. Two Australian guys, that hard, Australian strong style. And, I mean, they were chopping the crap out of each other. Like I said, really hard, really stiff match. And Bronson Reed's one of those guys, he reminds me of Keith Lee. He's big, and you don't think he can move the way he moves. But he's a really, big guy, and the things he does for his size are so impressive. So I'm really looking forward to see more from him. And Shane Thorn, again, in this singles role, he's proven to you that he's a guy who I could, give him a run as the the North American champion. Why not? I'm not saying right now to beat Roderick Strong, but down the line, he's proven that he's good, and you've seen what he can do. Now he lost to Johnny Gargano, and he lost here. Bronson Reed hit a huge top rope splash for the pin. So now this is 2 in a row. So where do they go from here? They started to push him. Now he's kind of, 2 losses. It's not saying he's done, he's finished, but it's interesting to see where they go with here from Shane Thorn. But really impressive match between these two guys. Definitely want to see more from them in the future. Alright, so then we get to the Women's Tag Team Championship match, and this was one I was really looking forward to, and I wasn't concerned who won, because I can see the story ending and going in a good direction either way. Because if you would have taken the belts off the Kabuki Warriors, then you could have feuded Asuka with, or Kairi Sane, really took that feud off with Becky Lynch. Maybe there's rumors that, like I said in Crown Jewel, that both of them might be feuding with Becky Lynch. And, maybe they beat her, and then her and Seth Rollins get traded to SmackDown for The Fiend because he has the Universal Championship. So that's, all up in the air, and that's just hearsay. But it's interesting to see what they would have done, but they kept the titles on the Kabuki Warriors. They retained against Team Kick, and it was a really good match. All 4 of these women are fantastic. Tegan Nox, Dakota Kai, Kairi Sane, Asuka, and the Team Kick definitely got more offense in than I thought they would. Not that I thought the Kabuki Warriors should dominate, but it reached a point in the match where it wasn't looking good, and then that's when Asuka was in and she spit the green mist, and that was pretty much it. And then after that, or she spit the green mist on Dakota Kai and pinned her. And then after the match, Shayna Baszler and the rest of the horsewomen came out, and they pretty much started beating up Dakota Kai, who was blinded still from the mist, and Tegan Nox. And then it turned into a huge brawl because Candice LeRae came out, Rhea Ripley came out, and then Bianca Belair and Io Shirai came out, and they started fighting Rhea Ripley and Candice LeRae, and even Dakota Kai, who was still had the green mist all over her face. Her eyes were probably still closed. I think she's up there swinging at whatever she can hit, throwing haymakers. And then William Regal comes out, and he's like, I have a very simple solution for all of this madness. War games. He just screams war games. And they're all looking at each other, and you got all the faces on one side, all the heels on the other side, and they're just staring each other down. and we predicted it a few weeks, I believe 2 weeks ago. I said that I think the women is the choice for War Games. It was just going in that direction because on the men's side, it was all singles feuds. You could have set up Undisputed Era, but who would you have put them against? It would have had to been Johnny Gargano, Tommaso Ciampa, and Finn Balor. You turn Balor heel, you're not going to do Matt Riddle and Keith Lee. Keith Lee and Dominik Dijakovic still have unfinished business, and, there's all this different stuff. So the men's is definitely a lot more singles matches. So that's why I thought War Games would be on the women, and that's the direction they went with. So really happy about that. I think that'll be a good match. Candice LeRae, if you've seen any of her independent stuff, she wrestles hardcore matches, not just against women, mixed tag matches. She's legit. Io Shirai, Rhea Ripley, Candice LeRae, all these women in this War Game match can go. And it'll be really great to see. And then we had Cameron Grimes and Tyler Bate. And this was a match, another one, where it's like, who is going to lose this match? You already had Tyler Bate. He was the UK champion, lost. Even though he still looked strong after that, you don't want to keep having him lose. And Cameron Grimes is on this huge roll. And he lost to Matt Riddle. So it's like, where do you go from here? Who do you want to, who suffers the pin? And, the match was going. It was back and forth. Really good match. It was anyone's at this point. Killian Dane comes in. And he distracts Tyler Bate, double stomp, and, that was it. So that's how they got out of it. They did a distraction, and it all makes sense because you have Killian Dane, or Cameron Grimes going against Tyler Bate, or he's going against Pete Dunne next week. And you have the Killian Dane, he wants Pete Dunne, and there's all, everything in it, connects. Like I said, in this story, in NXT, everything makes sense. It all connects. And that's what I like. Triple H, he doesn't leave anything. And it all makes sense. It's not random people attacking for no reason and this and that. So Triple H is definitely, he knows what he's doing down here. And, it keeps Tyler Bate looking strong because, he didn't lose technically clean. Even though the distraction is a little iffy, he could have... I don't know. When I was watching it live, it wasn't sold as well as it could have been. I think Killian Dane could have got a little more involved, but regardless, it was, like I said, it was still a good match. I'm not sold on Cameron Grimes, honestly. He looks like a smaller Bruiser Brody, just his appearance, but, in the rings, his moves are good, and, they're legit, but at the same time, I don't know, there's just something about him. Maybe I need to see him in the right feud with the right person to get him over. But, they really have a lot of stock invested in him, so he picks up the win here. And then in the main event, with the Undisputed Era, Bobby Fish, Kyle O'Reilly, against Keith Lee and Matt Riddle. And Keith Lee is just, his theme song, Everything Limitless, is all true. Keith Lee's amazing. Matt Riddle's definitely one of my favorites in NXT. Undisputed Era, they speak for themselves. They're the best in NXT right now. So you knew this was going to be a great match, and that's exactly what it was. Obviously, the other members of the Undisputed Era were down there, and you knew they were going to get involved. And that's exactly what they did. Tons of back and forth in here. Eventually, towards the end, Riddle and Lee, they got the upper hand. Lee does his pounce to the outside. He takes out a bunch of, I believe it was Roderick Strong and Adam Cole, I believe he took out. And then you had Matt Riddle in the ring. He hits a ripcord knee, and then he goes to set up his Tiger Bomb, and he jumps out of it. I forget which one he was going to hit, if it was Bobby Fish or Kyle O'Reilly, but they get out of it, they counter, and the other one's behind them. They hit total elimination, and then that's pretty much, the end of it. And that's how I think it had to be. As much as, you would have liked to see them maybe lose and then get the titles off these guys, and because I really need to see Keith Lee with a title, and same with Matt Riddle, these guys need to be champions in NXT, but did you want them to beat the Undisputed Era and then set something up for War Games? What was the whole goal here? Was this just a match just to put on a good match? I mean, there is history and there is stuff between these guys, but at the same time, where were they going with this? Still a great match, and at the end, they're beating down on these guys, and then Ciampa came out, hit his music. He's coming out with the crutch, and he's beating everybody. He teased to grab the NXT championship, but he said, Goldie, you're going to have to wait. Daddy's going to war. So we'll see, is this just a singles match and he means just War Games? Is there going to be 2 War Games matches? We don't know. But like I said, this episode really picked it up in the setup for War Games. It, announced the women's match. There's definitely going to be this Finn Balor, Johnny Gargano match. I would assume Pete Dunne and Killian Dane is a match. They're going to definitely get Cameron Grimes on the show. I don't know who that's going to be against. But they could do Dominic Dijakovic and Keith Lee, like a 2 out of 3 falls or some kind of match. I mean, I don't know how long this show is going to be. Normally, a takeover is, 2.5 hours? 3 maximum. I don't even know if there's been one 3 hours. So there's a lot you could put on this card. And I'm looking forward to see what they announce for the show. Definitely the Women's War Games match I'm looking forward to. And like I said, Triple H, he always leads us in the right direction for NXT. So I'm not worried. I'm just excited to see. And I'm excited to watch War Games. So thank you guys for watching this review. Sorry it's coming out a few days late. But we're going to try to get our videos updated are uploaded on a little more regular schedule. We're working on that right now. And just follow us on Twitter, follow us on Facebook. I'll have all the links posted in the video's description. Like I said, thank you guys so much for watching. Please like the video, share, subscribe, tell a friend, and, keep watching wrestling and, keep doing what you love. Thank you guys. Ah, da.